95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit to Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome once again to the Old Bastards Racing League. I am your host, Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action in 1080p and 60 frames per second if my Australian internet from down under can hack it. We are bringing you the action from the Kimball Cup Series from Martinsville Speedway in our second of our two final races here in the series. And we are looking at quite a solid race. We've got a nice bunch of about 27 drivers coming out here tonight. So it should be a pretty decent one as we get ready to kick off the race. But first, we go straight on into qualifying. Now we start off looking at Mark Fish, who's going to be one of the first drivers out on track right now. And doing a great job in the GoPro backed 42 machine, as I say that. Trying a bit of a Ross Chastain move. I'm potentially running it to see just how that works and whether it's actually faster or not. I'm not sure it actually will be. I'm gonna watch Dustin Martinson instead as he practices his pit entry, and he is going to come down early. These laps here at the paperclip at Martinsville very, very quick as we take a look at Victor Lane, who's trying to make his first few laps out. Thank you very, very much for joining us here in the broadcast today. Notice at the top of the spectator area chat a link to a GoFundMe page, which I will talk about in greater detail as we go on. But essentially we had a bit of a tragedy, befall the Team Goon squad family, as well as the Old Bastards Racing League family as well. And a little bit more to talk about that later on. As for now, we are still looking on with Victor Lane, as he's going to attempt to practice his own pit entry. Pit speed only 35 miles an hour here at Martinsville. Not that kind of speed we're going to be looking at too much though, as we look at Troy Baker trying to make his way up in the standings. Again, only 10 drivers have set a lap time so far. Baker will be the 11th. Sorry, he will be in the top 10 for now, trying to advance his position, and does so one spot above William Martin. Greg McDaniel coming out with the flyer so far. 15.60 to his name. As Clint Rice is about to make his way out, usually one of those drivers we see all the way up against the wall. Definitely not going to happen here at Martinsville, as the paperclip does not really allow for us to use that outside line. It's going to be quite a lot slower, and Rice goes for a little bit of a spin and a bobble, and that's going to ruin his second lap as well, so he is not going to be happy at all in the cockpit of that number 6 machine. Now Copeland making his way out in the 55 Chick-fil-A pink machine. Running a pink livery rather than the red one. That's an interesting design choice. Definitely will be able to spot him out on track. Currently sits in the 4th spot, trying one more attempt here. See what he can do. Now the paperclip only 0.5 miles. Nicknamed the paperclip being the configuration that it also looks like one, and being, I believe, the shortest track of the season. Dale Copeland with the top spot as we were watching on there. Absolutely phenomenal stuff as he racks up a 19.56. And that is going to key him straight to the top spot. And immediately taken out of it by Tom Ogle as they battle up there. And barely hundreds separating those two drivers. As Chris Bates currently... No, Josh Robinson was also on track, I believe, for a brief moment there as we head into the start of the race. So gridding up here, it's going to be Josh Robinson starting alongside Team Miata teammate Tom Ogle, with Dale Copeland and Greg McDaniel lining up alongside in the second row. Your third row consisting of Courtney Nelson and Michael Watts. Fourth row, Dean Gear and Dwayne MacArthur. Fifth row, Chris Bates and Daryl Winiger. Our sixth row, Wayne Hufford and Mark Fish going to be together on that one. As we cycle it on back to the seventh row, Victor Lane, as well as Dustin Martinson starting alongside Alan Wanamaker and Brian Lynch, not too far behind them in our eighth row. Ninth row, Troy Baker and William Martin. With our fifth row rounding out the top 20 is going to be Michael Dow and Clint Rice with that unfortunate struggle he had to start off. Lloyd Moore going to be starting back in the 21st position. The 11th row, he does have an EOL penalty to serve. So he will be dropping back. Bruce Pearson in the 22nd spot, also alongside Clay Walker and Dakota Pischke going to be sitting in our 23rd and 24th spots. It's going to be in our 12th row. As we cycle on back just a little bit further, our 13th row consisting of Kermit Gentry Jr. and Robert Crisco Garisco, who also has to serve an EOL penalty tonight. Our only lone triple number driver coming out here tonight, Mark Morissette. He is going to be starting way back there in the 7th position. Again, triple number drivers not able to qualify under the rules and regulations of the Old Bastards Racing League. And Lee Warsdell, the final spot, rounding out the 28-car grid here tonight. So, as I said earlier on, we're going to go pacing for a little bit longer. We're going to have an extra pace lap here tonight in honor of the tragedy that has befallen our Team Goon Squad family. Mason Heimbaugh, as some of you may or may not know, used to broadcast the Old Bastards Racing League and many other series that are involved in the Team Goon Squad family.
Not going green.
And unfortunately, he had a tragedy earlier on, and he tragically lost his young son in the process, as well as suffering some severe burns to his body. So he is currently fighting in ICU, and we wish him an absolutely speedy recovery. Our prayers and thoughts are with him and his son, of course, who sadly passed away. But we have set up, his family has set up a GoFundMe page, and we would be very thankful, of course, if you could donate any bit you have left spare. Every dollar helps, of course, and thank you very much for tuning in and supporting him, as well as the Old Bastards Racing League and the Team Goon Squad family, as the drivers get ready to go to green once more. And I will probably link the GoFundMe once again as we are about to get the ball rolling. And we are under green as we go through. So Josh Robinson has made that pass. Dale Copeland has a little bit of a struggle street as he checks up the field, but manages to stay in that third position. Courtney Nelson and Greg McDaniel fighting out just behind him in the top four, or the top four spot. And it looks like Greg McDaniel is going to be stuck on the high side, which is definitely not the ideal line. Martinsville, the paperclip here, not allowing much of an effort. Make sure you grab a Martinsville hot dog on the way. I've never been, but I hear it's absolutely fantastic, or at least that is what I've been told. As Greg McDaniel still trying to hang it up on the high side, but I'm not sure it's going to work out, as he has to file in behind the rest of the field. It looks like Dean Gear went for a little bit of a ride up to the top of the track. Able to keep it going though. And we're going to bring that tower up for you, excuse me, as we realize it's not on the screen. Dean Gear and Chris Bates now battling for the 9th position. And here's what's so tricky about Martinsville Speedway. Once you get that overtaking maneuver starting to come down on you, it really is very, very hard, as you can see there, to stay on that concrete, which is going to allow you the shortest possible line and a little bit of banking help as well. But he manages to find a gap right there between Hufford and Fish in the 11th spot, so he will stick that one out. As a battle for the second place spot starts to unfold, Dale Copeland underneath Tom Ogle, and Ogle doesn't want to get trapped. He wants to get down there as quick as possible, maybe fight the outside line for as long as he can. See if that's going to be able to do anything. Doesn't look like it. It manages to sneak his way between Copeland and Nelson, so thankfully only losing one spot. Do have 200 laps here tonight. Sorry for not pointing that out. 5 bonus points for a 0x. And a 7x incident limit that we always see in every Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series race. So everyone filing into their single file lines. Now we do have a fuel window of around about 160 to 170 laps, as the yellow flag has just been called. William Martin shown as involved in that one. That is not a view we like. So I'm going to change that right away. Have a look at what happened to the 94 machine. Gonna say, from looking at this, may have just hit the inside curbing and bopped him out. Have a look as he turns in just a little bit. Yep, inside curbing. Car gets unsettled. It's the power down. Round she goes. The White Castle machine is coming in. Nowhere to go. Michael Dow gets it broke down in time. The 4 machine comes through, just narrowly clipping rear end, and it looks like Clay Walker and Briscoe may have had a little bit of a ding there, as everyone was trying to check up as well. So that looks as though that is definitely the case, as not many drivers coming down pit road. A couple of them: Alan Wanamaker, Michael Dow, Troy Baker, William Martin. Martin and Dow involved in that one. Clay Walker just coming down pit road now with Bruce Pearson in tow. As we take another look at that one. Just in real time. See just how quickly this unfolded. See, just gets too much of the inside curbing, and round she goes. And thankfully it doesn't look like, it looks like the field was spread out enough that there wasn't a whole heap of problems. As we get back up to pacing speed. For our first yellow of the night here at Martinsville Speedway. So the pace car lights are off, and that means that they are going to be making the left-hand turn. There she goes. Down into pit lane. Joshua Robinson, Dale Copeland starting off on the front row with Tom Ogle, Courtney Nelson in the second row, Greg McDaniel and Mike
Green,
Watts
green.
in our third row as we get ready to hit the gas pedal. And that is exactly what these drivers do as they make their way into turn one. Robinson with the much preferred line on the inside, and that is definitely going to pay dividends. Ogle right on the back bumper, wanting to keep Copeland hung out to dry on that high side line, not allowing him enough room to come down. So he's going to be forced to stay out there and potentially lose another, as Josh Robinson has an interesting and very uncharacteristic lockup up the front. Somehow manages to stay in the lead for now. Still locking up the brakes. Those tyres going to be very, very warm. Potentially flat spotting every so often as he keeps on locking up. Robinson going to have to be very careful on the brakes here. Especially with his teammates so close behind. Thankfully doesn't lock up for the first time in I don't know how many turns. That time by as they head back into T1. Go further back in the pack, Clint Rice trying to make his way through the pack after definitely not the qualifying performance that he was looking for, as he's currently fighting with Brian Lynch for the top 15th spot. Now Rice fighting hard on that outside line. Typically the outside not the greatest place to be. Rice knows how to make it work though on every track he goes to. And Martinsville turns to be no exception. He has made that pass around Lynch. Further up through the field, Tom Ogle passes his teammate Josh Robinson, who is going to go and fall behind Courtney Nelson as well. If he's stuck on that high side line, so difficult to fight up there. And yes, so Courtney Nelson's going to take that away. And Dale Copeland is going to say, oh yes, thank you very much. He's going to try and take that as well. And Copeland will go through, so Josh Robinson drops 3 spots down into the 4th position. Going to have a quick look at that pass just while we have the time. Set up absolutely beautifully on the back straight, and Tom Ogle goes through with relative ease. So Robinson down, as we said, 3 spots. Rice trying again to keep going back up through the field. Dustin Martinson has to give way and does so. Thankfully not losing any more spots, as well as Rice makes his way up into the 14th spot now. And Clint Rice is on a mission to make his way through the field. Fighting in 6th and 7th position, Michael Watts and Dwayne MacArthur. That being said, happy belated birthday to Dwayne the Man MacArthur. Doing a whole lot of admin work week in and week out for the Old Bastards Racing League. And we are very, very happy to wish him a happy birthday, even if it is just a late. As he is sneaking right up on the back bumper of Michael Watts. I'd like to take this moment, as we do every moment, to thank you very much for tuning into the broadcast. I know Dustin Martinson was cheering us on, and so was Vic Lane before they got into their cars. Pac-Man CT and Jeremy Mayo, as always, joining us in the booth as well. Thank you very much for coming down and sharing your love and support. with each of these drivers, your broadcaster, and potentially the Team Goon Squad family as we try and get through this difficult time. As you can see the glowing red rotors in the rear of Greg McDaniel's #1 machine. Now that is interesting. That's telling you that the brake bias is very much towards the rear end of the car. And that is definitely an interesting suggestion that he has going on there. I wouldn't have thought that that would be the fastest way around. But then again, that is why I'm in the booth. As you can see, a lot of the rear's glowing white hot. Much more so than the front end of these cars. And you've got to wonder how much that will tear into that rear right hand wheel, or rubber I should say, on the tyre, as the heat will definitely wear off, and Ogle has to make his way around traffic now. So Bruce Pearson gets out of the way, and there is a car stopped in the middle of the track on the inside. Somehow a caution has not come out. That is Clay Walker, and he takes a tow because he does not want to get involved with anything more. As we will take a quick look at what happened to Clay Walker, riding behind the 19 machine, and tried to go for a gap that was closing rapidly, and it looks like there was just no room for that #2 machine, so he's going to be devastated as he tried to make a run at, as we said, the 19 machine, and that would be of Dustin Martinson. Martinson currently sitting in 17th position. Victor Lane and Robert Garisco fighting tooth and nail for the 15th spot, but we're still looking at the battle up front because Tom Ogle, being caught up behind fighting traffic, has definitely been caught up by Courtney Nelson and Dale Copeland, as all three of them make it through. Get lap traffic of Michael Dow and William Martin. As we go slightly further up the track, which is actually further down the standings, as Lloyd Moore fights tooth and nail Dustin Martinson right now on the inside line. The 26 me-backed machine by Lloyd Moore having an EOL penalty to start this race. And they're still fighting tooth and nail. So Dustin Martinson not wanting to give it up at all. But he is probably going to have to, and does so, as he heads into turn 3. Tried to switch over in turn 4. Blocked off entirely by Lloyd Moore though. And that pass is made. Well and truly. Biggest mover of the race so far is going to be sitting in the 15th spot right now. And that is Robert Crisco Garisco. Now he is working on the back bumper of Brian Lynch in the Hooters-backed #9 machine. 28 Crisco machine is fighting very, very hard to retain his biggest mover title right now, that he has 4 positions over the next biggest mover out on track, which is Clint Rice in the 13th spot. As, look at this, Wayne MacArthur underneath Mike Watts gets it done, and the road racing specialist is going to have to let the 83 DeWalt machine by. As Wayne MacArthur, the fast Canadian, takes that spot away. Look at this battle happening up front. Courtney Nelson had Dale Copeland right on the back bumper. Getting about as close as physically possible was Dale Copeland. Might actually take a couple laps he knows of Dale Copeland, just see how close he really is. Oh, speaking of close, well, there you have it. Goes to the inside line and makes a dive without too much of a problem. Courtney Nelson says, I'm had enough of you being right on my bumper. You can take it if you'd like. And Dale Copeland is definitely happy to see that happen. Nelson falling back just a little bit, maybe wanting to preserve some tyre underneath that machine. Tyre is going to be a bigger factor than fuel here at this track, I would imagine. As we check back in with Mike Watts because he got overtaken by Greg McDaniel. And it looked like he was getting closer and closer to the back end of Greg McDaniel for a moment and continues to do so as we say it out loud. Take a lap or two on board with Mike Watts. See there, Alan Wanamaker up high, not trying to get involved too much as the leaders go through. Mike Watts currently sitting in the 7th position on track right now. And he sees his prey right in front of him. You can see Josh Robinson, Dwayne MacArthur, Greg McDaniel not too far ahead. This track much more of a mental game than a physical one, if you ask me. Very much got to find yourself getting into a rhythm. And if you find yourself not getting into a rhythm, that exactly can happen as Dale Copeland from the 2nd position is spun out facing the wrong way on track. We're going to have to take a look at that one. As my brain is trying to comprehend exactly as he was catching up to Tom Ogle, as Tom Ogle was stalled a little bit behind traffic. Did he just get a little bit too much curb? Was it a self-posed incident? It looks like it was. On the gas too much, trying to keep it off the wall. And round she goes. Chick-fil-A machine. Oh, with a massive hit to the inside. Hopefully, he is doing all right in that machine. As he has to, unfortunately, watch the field go by. Victor Lane, once his time in the sun, has not stopped. He's going to stay out to take over the race lead. We're going to take a look at that incident one more time with our gyroscopic camera and have a look at what Dale Copeland was dealing with inside that machine. Yeah, it almost didn't look like anything really went wrong or too untoward. Just kind of went away from him. You can see that is absolutely terrifying as you can see all the cars come through, facing the opposite direction. It's spun on a dime though. Great job by him to really stick that one in there. So, said earlier, Victor Lane starting on the front row. Now, a lot of those drivers that were one lap down, they're going to be very, very happy to see that caution come out. Victor did not pit under first yellow. Jeremy Mayo asking me and wondering if he has a little bit, or potentially some better tyres than seem. But no, according to our software, he has not pit this race so far at all. Victor Lane going to take over the race lead. Tom Ogle lining up alongside with Courtney Nelson and Josh Robinson, not too far behind in the second row. Your third row consisting of Greg McDaniel and Dwayne the Man MacArthur. Get ready to send him out to green once more.
Green flag, green flag.
The green flag is out. Victor Lane is going to get jumped by Dwayne MacArthur. That may be looked at by the stewards later on. Gonna have to wonder about that one, if that was penalty worthy or not. Potentially just a little bit of a slower start from Victor Lane. A little bit of spin of the tyres. That one's going to be checked, I'm sure. But Victor Lane out front as Ogle gives the spot back. It looked like, or trying to fight on the high side and losing a little bit as well. As track position is definitely going to be key here. And that is what Victor Lane is trying to prove as he drives up really wide right into the side of Ogle. I believe there was no contact, but it was about as close as you could get. And the yellow flag has come out once again. We're showing Greg McDaniel, we're showing Dale Copeland, we're showing Alan Wanamaker and many others. But it looks like Greg McDaniel was the first one. So that's Mike Watts sending it to the inside in the 84 backed machine. We're going to see if the Castrol Edge car gets into Be a Moose. Dicey already. Bit wide from Watts, but nothing too untoward there. It's okay, it looks okay. Mike Watts goes for a self-spin on the high side. Narrowly avoids the 84 machine, and it looks like he should be without having anyone into him. No, it was okay and just unfolded behind. So now we'll have a look not too far behind. Dale Copeland was involved in a much larger incident. Chick-fil-A machine went for it. Oh, jeez. Now that car went for a spin. Great job from a lot of the drivers locking it down very, very quickly. Yeah, a couple of small hits coming from that one, but I have never seen a car get quite so loose quite so quickly, and that thing just snapped on him. Jeremy Mayer reminding us the 7x incident limit here at the Old Bastards Racing League, and Dale Copeland spinning twice and I believe getting hit by someone. That's going to be probably adding up to a 6x in total. 6 out of 7. That's not what you want to see, especially this early on in the race. A spin will cost you 2 incident points. A hit with another driver, if deemed worthy enough by the iRacing gods, will slam you with a 4x punishment. 7 is the maximum before you get sent to the Shadow Realm. Yeah, Jeremy Mayer, we have 160 to 170 lap green flag fuel run. I'm not sure if we continue the pattern of cautions that we've got right now, with 3 cautions so far, just over a quarter of the way through, sitting at lap 60 right now. That does make me wonder. I would not think you can make it all the way to the end, but one pit stop may be able to make it. In fact, yeah, even if you pit early enough, the lap 40 mark, that should be enough to make it to the end. So Victor Lane with a very bold strategy. Up on the high side now, though. That is truly going to test his skill as Tom Ogle is on the inside line, starting at the front row. Josh Robinson and Courtney Nelson in our second row with Dwayne MacArthur and Michael Watts. Our third row, Victor Lane a little bit further back than he needs to be,
Green flag, green flag.
as he's going to check up that high side line just a little bit more than I'm sure some of the other drivers are wanting to. So that's going to allow Tom Ogle an easy run up front, and there you go, Victor Lane way up the racetrack, going to force people 3 wide, and there goes an
Yellow
incident.
flag.
Cannot go 3 wide all that safely at Martinsville, and that is proof in the pudding right there. So take a look at that one once again. So there's Victor Lane on the high side. I believe on the jump, didn't get it broke down quick enough. Goes out wide and tries to rejoin back. That is going to force Wayne Hufford to come down, and not enough room for all 3 drivers. A little bit of allowance, I would say, at Hufford's part. Probably could have been a tiny bit tighter up the top, but hindsight is 2020, and honestly, when you're driving big machines like this, very, very hard to get the exact dimensions of your vehicle right from sitting in the cockpit. See the kind of chaos that created. Just an unfortunate situation for everyone involved. We'll back it up one more time and take a look again. This time focusing on Wayne Hufford. 75 machine. He just gets pinched. There's not a whole lot anyone can really do about that one. Briscoe, McDaniel, Winiger all involved in that one in a big way. A lot of other drivers with some smaller bumps. Fortunately, that is the way the cookie crumbles. So as the drivers make their way around using the wave around feature here at Martinsville, you can see them trying to catch back up to the back of the pack, as Tom Ogle is going to be once again restarting us from the first position with Josh Robinson, his teammate, on the high side. Going to see if they can work together to get something happening. Dwayne MacArthur, Courtney Nelson in your second row with Mike Watts and Chris Bates on the outside now in your third row. As the green flag is waving, thank you, Barney, for starting us off once again, and we go underway. As Tom Ogle out the front and manages to have a very decent start. MacArthur not allowing the 2 drivers to work together and separating the 2 in a big way, as he fights on the inside of Josh Robinson. A few drivers changing hands just a little bit behind. And into the second place goes Josh Robinson. Speaking of changing hands, there goes Mike Watts. And look where the number 6 machine has come from out of nowhere. All the way through the grid goes Clint Reist from near the back of the entire field, as he has been working his way up. The use of absolute beast performance. Chris Bates not sitting too far behind this battle, with Clint Rice, Courtney Nelson, and Mike Watts were all quite close together. Watts gets underneath Nelson, and Nelson is able to get underneath, or stay in front of Clint Rice. Looked like there was a little bit of a lockup from Mike Watts just ahead of Clint Rice and Courtney Nelson in position. Have to wonder if that was Josh Robinson just ahead of them, as we have seen him lock up quite a few times here tonight, already in the 23 machine. Victor Lane with an extended stay down pit road. Dale Copeland, I believe, is out. Kermit Gentry Jr. looks like he is out as well, as Victor Lane ponders whether he should come back or not. Courtney Nelson is making a move on Mike Watts. That is payback for the earlier move. Maybe a little bit of contact heading into turn 2. Mike Watts on the outside line hits the outside wall. And absolutely stuck up out there. Rice is going to dive it in deep. Somehow doesn't turn Mike Watts' 84 machine. Not sure how. But sticks it underneath anyway. And somehow is able to turn absolutely beautifully to get that 6 machine dialed in. Up 15 spots in this race into the top 5 spots. And is now on the hunt for Courtney Nelson. 6 machine doing what the 6 machine does. Making his way through the field very, very rapidly. 75 laps completed of 200 so far here at Martinsville Speedway. Rice, you might have thought, was impressive with a 15 spot gain so far, with a little bit of a loose exit behind Courtney Nelson, but that is just a tad behind Robert Garisco up 16 spots, excuse me. One more than Clint Rice at the moment, and Victor Lane has decided to join us back out on track as he makes his way back out on the low side line there, letting the field pass. As Ogle has Dwayne MacArthur in tow. Now we say this quite a few weeks out of the season, but these two drivers no stranger to being right next to each other on track, and a little bit of friendly rivalry between the two of them, as it looks like Dwayne MacArthur has quite a bit of pace in that machine right now. Right on the back bumper of Ogle. So you can see that Camaro looking very, very scary from the rear bumper of Tom Ogle's machine. I must admit, I'm sure there's debate about it, but I would definitely say that the Chevrolet Camaro, best looking car on track. Out of itself, the Toyota and the Ford Mustang. Now the Toyota, I constantly am confused about whether it is the Supra or the Camry. I believe it is still a Camry in the Cup Series at the moment, but I am certainly happy to be wrong there, as it looks like a Camry from what I'm seeing. Victor Lane apologizing in the broadcast booth or in the spectator area for his, well, unfortunately, I wouldn't say that was your fault. I'd say, you know, you missed your break point, and unfortunately the result was what it was. I mean, you still were out on track. were rejoining the racing line, but there's not really much you could do when you're up there, so I would hope that that would be deemed a racing incident, although I should definitely be a neutral party, and I guess racing incident is as neutral as you can get. So I think you're taking it a little bit harder than you possibly should. However, I can certainly understand how you feel. Thankfully, Victor Lane is back on track and still joining us for a race here tonight, which is fantastic to see. 19 machine Dustin Martinson up high, allowing the drivers coming round enough room to continue racing. We have a look at our closest battle on track. That's going to be Mark Fish and Robert Garisco, as Garisco has a little bit of a bobble, it looked like, on the exit of turn 2. Brought way back up on the entry of turn 3 though. And the GoPro backed 42 machine finds himself in a very precarious battle, sitting in the 9th position. Now I should mention once again that we do have one more race once this one is said and done at Phoenix Raceway next week. Don't miss it for the finale of the Old Bastards Racing League Pinball Cup Series. But I will say that our 10 drivers who are currently fighting for a championship, I believe every single top 10 spot. That's almost what I want to say as I take another look quickly. So Clint Rice sitting in the 5th place position right now is the first car, as well as Mike Watts and Chris Bates. You know what, just to disregard everything I just said. But Clint Rice is the only car in the top 5 that is not in the playoffs, so I can say that with absolute certainty. Now I will be once again heading into Speedway link at the halfway point of this race to the GoFundMe page. I know it feels like preaching at this point, but every dollar helps, and we very much appreciate everything that anyone can do to support Mason Einbaugh and his family in this very, very dark time in their lives. So I'll be sending that through once we reach lap 100 in the spectator area. At the moment, sitting at lap 94, Tom Ogle with Dwayne MacArthur just in tow, still sitting quite close nose to tail. 3/10 separating these two drivers. As Josh Robinson, the teammate of the leader right now, looking on. Little bit of a gap from the front 3 is Courtney Nelson, who is currently fighting for P4. And through goes Clint Rice. Excuse me, to reiterate my point earlier, not to reiterate, but to change my point earlier, Courtney Nelson is not in front for the championship either, and he was in the top 5 as well as Clint Rice. So bear with me as I am struggling a little bit here tonight with everything that has been going on. So in 9th spot, Mark Fish still doing a fantastic job. Really having a nice run in the top 10. Mark Fish not involved in any kind of incident, has been able to slow it down before he gets there to any kind of wreck that may be involved in front of him. Have evolved in front of him, I should say. And he's just been biding his time. Now he is unfortunately 10th out of the top 10, trying to make their way to championship glory, but he has had a lot of bad luck befall him in this round of 10 series. And this is the first race that looks like, barring a commentator's curse, that it has gone his way. so far. So that is fantastic to see in the GoPro backed 42 machine. As we have reached lap 100, I will post once again our GoFundMe for our good friend and colleague, fellow broadcaster, and absolute team member. I cannot thank enough to Mason Heimbaugh for all that he has done for me, as well as he
The yellow
has
flag is out.
really helped me get up to speed with broadcasting, and I've learned a whole lot from him, as well as just to have fun and enjoy it, always seeming to have a smile on his face as he was broadcasting these events. So, Darrell Winnegar is showing up as bringing out the 5th caution of the night, just over lap 100. And we're going to have a quick look, as it looks like Michael Dow may have also been involved in this one. And that was just in front of the leader as well, so we can only hope that Ogle wasn't involved. And he was. Ogle just getting rid of the back marker there. And that is not going to be looked favorably upon by Winnegar, I am sure of that. Let's take a look at that one once again. Focusing more on Ogle. Slightly different as well in real time. And I think Ogle thought that Winnegar was going to give him the space. And Winnegar just had a slightly higher line, but was trying to get that run off of the corner to battle with Michael Dow for that position. Don't think there was any reason for Winnegar to think that Ogle was going to be there. But I'm sure there are two sides to every story. We will let the stewards debate on that one. Winnegar was set for a wild ride. Sent for a wild ride. Jeremy Mayo doing a lot of stats himself. No, Jeremy, we're going to have to get you in the booth. I know I've said that, I think, once before, but we're going to have to get you in the booth at some point. If nothing else, just to be our analytical advisor, because doing an absolutely amazing job. Telling us that 23rd has gone to 3rd. 83 has gone into 2nd position. Just a whole bunch of info. I'm not going to read it all off because it's going to make me look bad. Mayor once again making me look bad as he does week in and week out. We do share the love though. Thank you very much, Jeremy Mayo. I do appreciate it as much as it does make me look bad. I'm all about poking fun. So that is perfectly fine with me. Jeremy Mayo says, looks like the 11 may be taking a self-penalized. Well, it does not look like that to me, as he's still sitting out in front and did come down pit road. So it's going to be Tom Ogle, Dwayne MacArthur, Josh Robinson, Clint Rice, Courtney Nelson, and Mike Watts. Your top 3 rows as we get back to going to green. And Ogle is going to stay out in front, as MacArthur and Robinson going to fight it out for the 2nd place spot. Robinson's going to have to give way, as he just was not as quick as Dwayne MacArthur on the exit of turn 2 last time by. These drivers going through these corners faster than I can speak. As you can see, our the only battle, 2 cars wide up towards the front right now, fighting for the top 10 position. Greg McDaniel on the high side, Robert Crisco Garisco on the low side. McDaniel has a little bit of a bobble up there, but thankfully is able to keep it pointed in the right direction. And as the low side driver, I can fully understand trying to get as much off the curbing as possible to also slow up that car on the high side, making them just run a little bit wide. And Garisco seemed to be able to do a fantastic job of that. Nothing untoward in that move, of course, at all. As Dakota Pischke in the 4 machine is having his own battle towards the back here in the 20th spot. Clay Walker in the 2 machine, not fighting for position with Dakota Pischke. Pischke is fighting with Wanamaker just in front, and there goes Clay Walker. Had a big lock up to the inside line and had to drag it up the track. We go back to the top 10, Wayne Hufford. Greg McDaniel is able to take that position away as Wayne Hufford had to give up the spot to Robert Garisco as well. And here comes Lloyd Moore on the outside line. Now, if Lloyd Moore can make this pass, that's going to be some incredible feat, and it looks like he may be able to do that. Wayne Hufford did not fight it all that much, though. As I say that, they're still side by side. The quarter panels could almost touch. Both drivers allowing a lot of room for the other, and they're still side by side. Still side by side out of turn 2. Who's going to get the run? The outside line does with Lloyd Moore. But the inside is going to have such an advantage under braking. You can see as Wayne Hufford makes quite a bold attempt. And these two are going to be side by side for a little while, it would seem. As Moore is trying to shut the door. But there continues to be a Hufford in the way. Hufford trying to force Moore all the way up to the high side, and it looks like that was the only way to keep the two of them separated back into single formation as Dean Gear works on Troy Baker, but unable to get anything done as he's trying to work the high side himself. And wow, dives it in there and absolutely manages an amazing move. As I say that, might have cut the tire down on Troy Baker's machine. That's going to be one to be careful of. I'm sure the pit crew is going to be looking at that one, trying to investigate if that tire is indeed cut down or if that is still viable. Stay on that machine. Michael Dow very much happy to see that unfold as he was able to take a spot away, and Mike Watts makes a move past Chris Bates. And Chris Bates dives it in deep. You can see there wanting to retain position over Mark Fish and causing a calamity. The caution coming out for that one. That is not going to be good. I know Mark Fish, one of those drivers that always wants to keep a clean slate. Fortunately, be able to in this scenario. Chris Bates still sitting up there trying to find the right time to dive back down. You can see the move there from Mike Watts just in front of Bates. And Bates came down very, very quickly, not wanting to lose any more positions. And Mike Watts locked up just for a brief moment, but it was okay. Still had control of the vehicle. Bit of a tag to the rear end. And round she goes. Sure, that one's going to be felt. Man. So, one more time. Gearbox this time of Chris Bates' machine in real time. See there, just tries to slam the door and there's a little bit of a touch. A better view probably come to us from Mark Fitch himself. Uh, now he's just back behind on track, but it's more when I say that I'm looking at our screen. Go back and watch this one time from Fisher's perspective. Yeah, wasn't on the gas at all. I didn't see that RPM meter move much. Just carrying more speed in general than Bates. Just an unfortunate bit of a tap to the rear end. Round she goes. Brian Lynch, Bruce Pearson, both down pit road. They've made their ways out. So interestingly enough, as we are back live right now, Tom Ogle is going to be staying as your race leader. A lot of these drivers pit in our last caution by at lap 102. First driver to pit on this new caution just gone by. Dean Gear sitting in the 15th position. So that should be interesting. Now these drivers will all at this point have enough fuel to make it to the end. It is a question now of the tyres. Chris Bates making his way out of pit road just now after finishing pairs to that machine. The 81 has just beaten pace car to the exit of pit road. Tom Ogle, Dwayne MacArthur, Josh Robinson, Courtney Nelson, Clint Rice, and Michael Watts, your first 3 rows as we get ready to send them off once again.
Green, green, green.
And the green flag is out. Tom Ogle gets a nice jump on the inside line. MacArthur sitting in second, wants to dive it in right there and does so. Absolutely beautiful move. That's going to check up Robinson just a little bit as well. And he's going to be under fire from Courtney Nelson, but Nelson is going to be on the high side line, so that is going to be a tall order for sure. And a little bit of a bubble from the 48 machine on exit of turn 4, so that's going to allow Robinson to stay just a little bit of a nose ahead and retain that position for the moment. Still side by side right now, and that's just going to hurt Courtney Nelson because look who's trying to fill that gap, and it is Mike Watson. Nelson has a bobble, gets into the outside wall, and he's going to be struggling a little bit with the right-hand side of that car right now, but somehow manages to keep it all together and gets back in line behind Josh Robinson for the 4th position. So fantastic job there. Jeremy Mayo. I'm sorry I read this right now, but saying that Mark got fish hooked. That's about as funny as we could seem to think, as Dean Gear just got passed by Michael Dow. So the 92 and the 60 are having their own heated battle. 14th position as the caution comes out further up the field. And oh no, it is Chris Bates once again, according to our timing software. Chris Bates takes a tow as well. I have to look at this one. Looks like a bit of a lockup from Pischke further up the field, but nothing really too bad. Bates is already high and offline, and I'm going to say that the asphalt, the mix of the concrete and that rear right tire hitting the asphalt, that's exactly what's going to happen, as that just spins him around the uneven surfaces. He's completely spinning that machine around, and he's going to that side barricade at the, all she wrote, I believe, potentially for Chris Bates's 81 machine. So, we continue through this race. Interestingly enough, Clint Rice down pit road. I'm going to take a guess and say that Clint Rice wanted some fresh rubber underneath him, and that'll be the last pit stop that he probably takes. So we'll have to see if that strategy works out or not. I believe if we have a caution, it should work pretty well. Keep in mind, earlier in the race, in 75 laps, he made it all the way from pretty much the back of the pack up to the top 5. So with that rate of climb, and if he does it again after we go green, we'll have a few less laps than he did last time, but could see it interesting if we go green to the rest of this race and he may be banking on another caution coming out. In which case, if other drivers need rubber or want it, they're going to have to pit, and we'll give those spots. So the pace car will take its lights off this time by. Thank you very much for joining us on the YouTube side of things. I see at the moment 19 viewers watching. Thank you very much. That's probably getting close to a record for me personally. Definitely I am not worthy, but we are very, very thankful to have you here tonight to support myself, the drivers, Team Goon Squad, especially Mason Heimbaugh, as his family and himself obviously go through a very difficult time in their lives. So we can't thank the Old Bastards Racing League community enough for the support that they have shown us over the many years we've been allowed to broadcast their events. Tom Ogle gets a nice jump out front with Dwayne MacArthur on the high side, but Robinson doesn't want to fight tooth and nail with it, so he will give the spot to Dwayne MacArthur right now, and it looks like riding the wall was Courtney Nelson, trying to get that machine around. The 48 struggling on that high side line. It's not going to be enough though, as Robinson is going to stay on that inside line there. And once again, our absolute prayers and condolences with the Heimbaugh family and his partner and all the family on their side as well, as it is an absolute tragic loss. So we go single file for the moment. Ian Martin's done a fantastic job in the 94 machine with, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, cautions out on track involving the 94 machine. He's made his way back up and is now sitting in the 11th position out on track, up 7 spots from where he started this race. Speaking of where they've moved since the start of the race, have a gander at this. Robert Crisco Garisco, 20, I repeat, 20 positions gained in the 28 backed machine. Is doing absolutely phenomenal driving so far tonight. As he's currently very, very close to the back bumper of Mike Watts' machine. And I'm glad that supposedly 6th caution has gone away, as we brought out the tower, and that's exactly what it told us, which was just wrong. Mike Watts continues to be out the front of the pack. Of this pack, excuse me, just behind Garisco and Fish. line and sinker, Mark Fish, to the 7th position, doing a great job right now. Keeping it relatively clean. Obviously a little bit of an incident earlier on with Chris Bates. Bates, I believe, has parked it this session. Clay Walker looks like has also parked it. Cars are done out early. Dale Copeland also joins us in the spectator area from his machine. Unfortunately, done early as well. Our closest battle on track right now, the 94 and the 75, fighting for the top 10 spot. Wayne Hufford, William Martin. On the nose camera of William Martin's 94 machine. And it has to be said, Tom Ogle this time deciding not to copy the paint job from Wayne Hufford's machine. So that is very good to see, as Hufford does not have a case of stolen identity once again. Lap 148 completed of 200. Go further up the front because we look at the battle now for the top 5 spots. In 4th and 5th right now, Courtney Nelson, Mike Watts battling it out inside of the Martinsville paperclip. And it looks like a yellow flag has just been arriving, and it's been on the tip of our tongue for a little bit of time right now. As the caution has come out for Dakota Bishke, codenamed the Grandpa. I swear it's not my nickname, but it's what shows up. Dakota looks like may have been a self-spin. And yes, just clips that inside curb, and you could see the left-hand side front axle lifting off the ground and spinning that machine all the way around, taking a tow to get off the racing line as Tom Ogle comes down pit road. Taking Reshies, it looks like, as well as Troy Baker, Michael Dow also down pit road. So Ogle, interestingly enough, with less than 50 laps to go, relinquishing the lead to Dwayne MacArthur. Now this is a battle right here because MacArthur and Robinson sitting just behind in the 2nd place position. These two drivers currently fighting for the top spot in the championship as of next week. These two drivers are number 1 and number 2. Josh Robinson with a 15-point gap. So definitely a nice point margin heading into the final race. At least that is the margin so far. It will be closed up if we finish as we are. Close up just ever so slightly. Wayne MacArthur taking home an extra for the win of this race, should it go that way. Josh Robinson, all he has to do is consistently finish a fairly good spot, which he has been doing all season long. Of course, our most winningest driver this season, winning 13 races and the All-Star race, as well as our last 2 events. Wayne MacArthur quite often playing second fiddle and not too happy about it. Yeah, Jeremy Mayo letting us know once again, because I was wondering the exact same thing. There is not a whole lot of reason as to take tyres unless you really feel them going underneath you. Because, let's not forget, track position is absolutely king here at the Paperclip. As you can see, looks like the light is starting to fade a little bit as well. Track temperature will be coming down. As the clouds move in, night gets closer. And
Green flag,
MacArthur
green flag.
with a nice jump off the start. Looked like Robinson was able to predict it pretty well though. Not too far behind. They're fanning out quite vividly right next to each other. Robinson, I'm sure, will want not to be checked up by Courtney Nelson, but that is exactly what MacArthur wants to see happen. As I believe Robinson is going to be able to hold the position a little bit further back. Is battles going on all over the place. Courtney Nelson does take the second place spot after all as we head on back a little bit. A little bit more chaotic towards the mid-pack of the field. Wayne Hufford, William Martin fighting for the 9th place spot. Martin's on the high side though. Gonna get a little bit loose. Dean Gear runs into the back of him. Troy Baker has to back up. Ogle was there as well. Thankfully, nothing untoward happening in any regard. William Martin just checking up to avoid spinning out. And unfortunately, Dean Gear getting a little bit of a nose to the rear bumper. But other than that, all feelings look like they are intact. And I'm sure Tom Ogle is very happy to see that as around she goes.
Caution, yellow flag.
Dustin Martinson, I believe, was just sent to the Shadow Realm as well. And that is heartbreak. As he and Troy Baker had their own little incident just behind Tom Ogle. We were talking about him. So the 18 and the 94 get together. Let's have a look at this one. Was it a bit of a send from Troy Baker's? And it looks like it may have been. Up to the camera to decide that one. As William Martin entered high. Baker saw a bit of a gap. No, it was actually going to be. Oh, that's going to be as unfortunate as I can imagine. So what happened there was Michael Dow had a little bit of a lockup heading into the corner, which slowed down Dustin Martinson, and he was already high enough that Troy Baker put his nose in there. But quickly turned out there wasn't the gap that he thought there was going to be. And everything just closed up toot sweet. I don't think, personally, that you could blame either driver on that one. I'm sure that there will be different sides to every story and drivers, potentially fans on both sides of their camps for the arguments. Interestingly, Ogle was down pit road once again as you saw him come out just in front of Troy Baker. So not sure what the reasoning is behind that. Potentially decided to get new tyres. As he may have, actually that's a good point, he may have been the final car. And realizing that he's not going to lose any spots, might as well get some freshies on there. So Ogle, most recent car to come down pit road, lap 160. Furthest up in 14th position. Now Dwayne MacArthur, Courtney Nelson, Josh Robinson, all these drivers in the top 9 positions. Down to Wayne Hufford have not stopped since the middle point of this race, lap 102. Jeremy Mayo saying, or James Waldo asking if Ogle spun. So Ogle did spin. Gonna have to look at that one because it's always fun to make fun of Ogle. So apparently it was in the background of the crash. Let's have a little poke at Ogle's expense. And down she goes. Ooh, that explains why he was down pit road. Self-spin. Not spinning all the way around, but definitely enough to pile drive into that inside wall as we're getting ready to go back to green. Dwayne MacArthur, Courtney Nelson on your front row. Josh Robinson and Mike Watts your second row. With Robert
Green, green,
Garisco and Greg McDaniel making up your third row. We go back to green. Courtney Nelson with a huge lunge to the outside line. It's not going to be enough though. That outside's so difficult to make work. As they're still going to be side by side though. Oh, and it looks like Dwayne MacArthur's going to be able to hold him off. Will Robinson be able to take that spot back that he lost to Courtney Nelson earlier on in the race? Last caution by. And still leaving the gap there is Courtney Nelson, being a very respectful driver. Could have closed it up, potentially causing calamity though. Sliding against it. Great job from him. As Courtney Nelson's going to have to fall back that one spot. There's enough room to close up though, and does so into that third place spot. Cycling on back to Mark Fish. He looked to the inside of Lloyd Moore. Wasn't as confident on the brakes, it looked like, as Lloyd Moore was. As we cycle it on back to the 15th spot, because Troy Baker was right on the back bumper of Dean Gear, who is also right on the back bumper of Alan Wanamaker. That was an interesting decision to try and move on the high side line. Seems like that's where he's happier right now though, and look at the run mid-corner. I don't think I've ever seen a run mid-corner like that from any car as Dean Gear. It's just astonishing right now using that outside lane. Who would have thought here at Martinsville? But managing to pull it off. As your closest battle on track is just ahead of those drivers. Michael Dow with Tom Ogle just behind. Wayne Hufford just in front. Michael Dow currently sitting in the 11th position in the White Castle machine. And Mark Fish finally made that move, of course, as we panned the camera away on Lloyd Moore, and manages to make that one stick without any issues or woes. Ogle to the inside of Wayne Hufford, and Ogle's going to take the 10th place away from the 75 machine. Michael Dow's going to try and see if he can get another spot using that as well. Oh, almost into the side of Hufford. Hufford's not going to be happy to see that, as he is in that fight for the championship. Michael Dow is not. Of course, all these drivers have a definite right to fight tooth and nail for every position on track. I'm sure there are some drivers certainly who may feel differently about it though, given their current position. Dwayne MacArthur not too far in front of Robinson. What I'm loving seeing so far is we have yet to see a driver really romp around the rest of the field, as what can happen at Martinsville Speedway, and has happened in the past. Might get one or two drivers that are just so far ahead of the field that they absolutely gap everyone else. But it looks as though, even with the cautions, it looks as though MacArthur and Robinson have stayed relatively together throughout the entirety of the race, so that is great to see. As Ogle tried to move on Brian Lynch, but it wasn't successful. Going to try again, diving into the inside. Lynch says no. Cuts him off. And Lynch still staying in front for the moment. Both of these drivers in the playoff hunt for the championship. And the Hooters back 9 machine unfortunately getting a little bit loose towards the exit of turn 4. Having to give that spot to Tom Ogle, who has made his way back up to the 8th position. But without a caution, it could be a case of too little too late, as it looked like Robinson tried to fake out MacArthur there. As we ride on board at the back of MacArthur's machine. Looking at Robinson, you can see the different lines as Robinson is trying to get as much speed off the corner as possible. Able to get onto the gas earlier. Wayne MacArthur seems to have a bit more of a mid-speed sort of machine. He's able to get just enough to keep Robinson behind at this point in time. I do love that shot from the gearbox. It looks so great with the cars coming down into the corner. As none of these cars towards the front need to make a stop. They'll be good to go to the end on fuel. Will their tyres make it? They definitely should, but I'm sure they will be screaming towards the end of this one, as they've been on their tyres for about 80 laps at this point. So these two drivers continue to a very close battle on track. Only 0.2 separating these two, and that gap has not widened or closed for a little while. As it widens just there to about 0.3, but watch as Robinson closes that one back up. Back to 0.2 once again. These two drivers, the titans of the league, as we say every week, continuing to have a very heated battle. It looks like they may be coming up to some lap traffic. Not too distant future, so that may pay dividends as to seeing who can get through traffic better. As you can see, Bruce Pearson and Victor Lane, like as well, making their way through the corner, not too far ahead of them, to turn 3 and 4 as we go round another lap with less than 15 to go here at the Paperclip Martinsville Speedway. Ryan Lindsay joining us in the chat, as well as James Waldo. Lee Warsdale also. A lot of these drivers have been racing with the Old Bastards Racing League quite a number of times, potentially electing to stay out of Martinsville Speedway, and I can't say that I blame them. As much as this track is fun, it is also an absolute headache. And some other drivers maybe sent home a little bit earlier than they would have liked to see. It looks like MacArthur has been able to get out in front of Robinson by just a little bit more than Robinson would like to see, so that could be interesting as it keeps on unfolding. We go back a little bit further because Ogle has caught up to the back of Robert Garisco. And the 11 machine trying to see if he can get around. Now he's got a bit of ground to cover after that self spin, getting the car back up to working shape. Fighting tooth and nail, but track position being such a key factor here. Even with those fresher tyres, I don't think it's going to be enough, as we have only 10 laps to go. full minute separating, oh sorry, not a full minute, a full second. Minute would be crazy. A full second separating second from third as Ogle for the 6th place position underneath Carisco. Makes a move with less than 10 to go, manages to pull it off. Still to the inside, great racing from these two drivers, a lot of respect paid. And through goes Ogle. So Ogle makes up another spot. Briscoe just behind him is the biggest move of the race, even still up 19 positions. Now we've lost Clint Rice back further in the pack, and he is not on track anymore. He is done. He was trying a different strategy earlier on. Fortunately, does not seem to have paid off for him at all, as MacArthur has Robinson for company once again. We're coming to 5 laps to go. See Wanamaker not too far ahead of this dueling duo. Coming into turn 1. Half a straightaway separating the two. Should be enough time to not get involved in this battle for the lead. As you can see, they're fanned out single wide. And you can see this is a great shot to show you just how small, just how short a lap is around the paperclip. MacArthur doing everything in his power to hold off Josh Robinson. Robinson not close enough to really force an issue out of MacArthur quite so yet. You can see those rear rotors still glowing like crazy. Still focusing on MacArthur and Robinson. We do not want to leave this battle. I'm not sure Robinson has enough to go and get MacArthur, but it's going to be close as he's trying everything. MacArthur has been desperate to beat Robinson for the past 2 weeks and has been playing second fiddle to Robinson for long enough. And I'm sure he's feeling that behind the wheel right now as he's trying desperately to stay out in front. We come to the final corner out of turn 4, and it looks like it's all MacArthur's night tonight. And he takes home the checkered flag here at Martinsville Speedway. Courtney Nelson in third as well. Actually managed to catch up a little bit to these two battling in front. Such was their focus on each other. They were paying less to the race itself. And Wayne finally getting that victory that he has oh so been looking forward to. But Josh Robinson sitting in the second position. That's not going to give Dwayne a whole lot of points heading towards the championship race next week. I'm sure he's going to soak in this victory though and not worry too much about it until tomorrow morning. Courtney Nelson in the third position. Mike Watts and Greg McDaniel rounding out our top 5. Tom Ogle made it up into the 6th position, but no further after that stop at lap 160. Robert Garisco in the 7th position with Fish in 8th. Brian Lynch in 9th and Lloyd Moore rounding out our top 10. I will do as I have so often done while we watch MacArthur still burning the house down. Oh, that is a very... I am so sorry. Okay, so... yeah. So, we are going to continue as I absolutely just am gonna... yeah. We're gonna roll through the rest of the grid. Alrighty, so it looks like Dwayne MacArthur is already in the waiting room, and I cannot apologize enough for what I've just done. I am absolutely. Alright, well, anyway, so we will bring up Courtney Nelson into the third position. Courtney, welcome to the booth. How are you feeling tonight?
What's that?
How are you feeling tonight? Sorry, it's a little bit shorter. I realize that it takes a little bit of time for the comps to reach you up here in the booth, but yeah, how are you feeling after tonight's race?
A little tired.
A little tired. Well, I tell you what, it must be really hard working the good old wrists, good old arms. Are you feeling it more in the forearms or the wrists as you grab onto the wheel, turning it left 200, well, 400 times here tonight? I mean, must be absolutely taxing, like you just said.
Yeah, it was just hands, arms, shoulders, just a little tired.
Well, Courtney, I will say that it looked like a great race, though, from what we were watching. I mean, talk us through your battles, especially with Josh Robinson as well as Dwayne MacArthur. But we saw you with Josh Robinson door to door for quite a while. You were hanging it really well on that high side line for quite a while. Uh, I mean, how'd you manage to do that? I guess is what I'm going for because inside line seemed like the preferred line, but you managed to stick it up there, even if it didn't quite work out. It seemed to be paying dividends for quite a few laps.
Yeah, starting on the outside was not the optimum place to be, so I'd send it until hopefully there was a hole. We could get far enough ahead where there was a hole where I could tuck in behind.
Yeah, well, it seemed to, as I say, work very well for you. I gotta ask, how was that inside curb? How high exactly is it here at Martinsville? Because it seems very well defined, and we had a few cars here tonight who really lifted those two, either the left side front or the left side right, and it just sent the car for a bit of a loop-de-loop. But you seemed like you were pretty on it tonight.
Yeah, the curb is pretty unforgiving. I hit it a couple times at practice, and there's no saving it, so it's something to stay away from, but you can find some time if you get as close as you can to it.
All right, well, sounds good. Now, Courtney, we will let you go, but before we do, who would you like to give a shout out to? Third place, definitely nothing to sneeze at. Friends, families, sponsors, teammates, all's yours.
Yeah, just the league, these guys, they're fun to race around. It's been a whole lot of fun, so I just very happy I get to race with these guys.
All right, that was Courtney Nelson. Thank you very much for joining us up here in the booth, and we look forward to you having a stellar race next week at Phoenix as well.
All right, have a good night.
Two. All right, that was Courtney Nelson. As we said, bring it home in the third place position. Next up is Josh Robinson in the second spot. Josh, welcome to the booth. How are you feeling after that one?
Feeling pretty good. How are you doing tonight, Gareth?
I'm doing pretty great. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty all right, and I hope I've done you justice up here in the booth. But I will say, Josh, it's been just absolutely great seeing you do your thing, and you know what? I I kind of can't feel bad about it. I gotta say, props to Dwayne because he finally managed to pip you at the line this time.
Yeah, he ran a very smooth race, and props to him. He did exactly what he needed to do. He kept himself up there. I think he worked his way up from eighth on the initial start, so he was back into the thick of it for quite some time, and he ran a very smooth race and did exactly what he needed to do.
All right, sounds good, Josh. And you know what? That's exactly what he did to make it home. But we want to talk a little bit more about you on the restarts. It seemed like you had the low side line for the most part, which was definitely the advantage. But a lot of drivers, we saw Courtney Nelson being one of those, seemed to stick it out on the high side and slow you down a bit. But pushing a lot to keep them up there, or did it look like you were just I don't know, being a bit more forgiving on the inside line because you get involved in any kind of incident?
You know, I was I had to run on the bottom a little bit harder on those restarts than I would have liked. Um, and it was a pretty fine line from how much brake you could use to get into the corner and it turned nicely versus locking up the left front. So I didn't want to do that because if you lock up the left front, you're just going to drive right up into the guy on the outside of you. So I was pretty conservative down there, and Courtney was doing a heck of a job up there to make that a racy event. And props to him for doing that. But yeah, the low side is definitely where you wanted to be on a restart.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, before we let you go, who would you like to shout out? Friends, family, sponsors. The floor's yours, man.
Shout out to Team Miata. We had a pretty good, lot of fun tonight. Shout out to Tom for leading most of the race, and then I think the entire field, including myself, duped him when he ducked into the pits. And then, shout out to Dwayne and Victor for putting the league on, and again, shout out to Dwayne for picking up the win today.
Sounds good, Josh. Well, we will let you go. Good luck next week at Phoenix Raceway. It's going to be an interesting fight between you and Dwayne for the end of the season. You're looking pretty good, but those points not probably as big a gap as what you were hoping for.
No, I think Dwayne and I netted equal tonight with how the bonus points work out, and so I think it's about a 15-point lead, and I'd much rather have the 15-point lead than not have it, but that's not a comfortable amount for me.
All right, well, it'll certainly be interesting, and I can't wait to watch it as well as the viewers. Much as you might not like it, it makes a fantastic spectacle to watch. So we are all looking forward to that, I'm sure. We'll see you then. Good luck, Josh, and go Miata.
Have a good day, Gareth. We'll see you next week.
Good. All right, so Dwayne MacArthur, we're going to bring up here in the booth for the win. Dwayne MacArthur, the 83 machine, DeWalt backing, as well as Bass Pro Shops, but DeWalt seems to be the way you've gone the past couple of races as the main sponsor. Now, let me tell you, or let me ask you, how has that influenced how you're racing here? Because recently we've seen a lot less mistakes and a lot more performance out of that machine since switching main sponsors.
Well, thanks, Gareth. I didn't know that my performance was lacking. But yeah, got the black and the yellow, black, yellow, and orange on the car. Maybe it's a different attitude. It's nice to close one out here. Had a couple slip through my fingers here in the Cup Series recently, so nice to close one out and put it in victory lane.
All right, well, sounds good. I mean, you must be over the moon about finally doing what you've been so wanting to do for the last few weeks, and tipping out Josh Robinson must have felt good.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's not the track I would have thought that I had my breakthrough. Not sure. I'm typically in the Tom Ogle, Josh Robinson weight class here at Martinsville, but it is nice to close it out. It didn't do me any good. Came in and left with the same amount of points difference between myself and Josh. So, but nice to not lose more with having a bad performance. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I will say that you two are going to have a phenomenal race at Phoenix next week for the championship. Now, I've got to ask you, how are your feelings at Phoenix Raceway? Do you feel confident or are you feeling a little bit skeptical?
No, I feel good. I feel pretty good at Phoenix. We close out a bunch of seasons there, and we race there all the time in all the series, and it's gonna be really easy, I think, to make up the difference because I'm gonna dump Josh on lap one, and then just go collect some points.
All right, sounds good. Well, Dwayne, before we let you go, once again, friends, family, sponsors, floor's yours. Make sure you let us know.
Yeah, no, I think I'll just reserve it this week, obviously, for a shout out to Mason and his family. Obviously, it's a terrible circumstance they're going through. Couldn't even imagine. So thoughts and prayers are with Mason, your good friend over at Team Goon Squad, and hope he has a speedy recovery and everything in the hospital there. So outside of that, just thanks to all the guys for showing up, and thanks to you again, and looking forward to the Goon Squad putting together some fundraisers for Mason coming up, and see if we can get the OBRL to participate any way we can. So
Sounds absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Dwayne. I'm sure Mason's family, as well as the family here at Team Goon Squad, act the same way. We will let you go. Enjoy this victory, and I'm sure we'll see you shortly, if not before next week's race. Good luck, and it'll be definitely a battle to watch.
yeah. I mean, it's just a shame Josh is only going to get to do one lap next week, but it is what it is.
Oh, I'm trying to remember that battle that I saw once where some of the drivers were, who was it? Logano, and I think it was, yeah, anyway, I shouldn't be
Yeah.
taking up time, but
Well, you remember Darlington, right? So do I.
yeah, well,
All right.
enough said. Yeah, so Dwayne, it's been great having to talk to you again, and we will see you in the future, I'm sure. So good luck.
Yeah, buddy. Take care. Thanks a lot. See y'all.
You too. All right, so that was Dwayne MacArthur bringing it home in the top spot, and I'd like to once again shout out to Jason Heimbauer and his family. Absolutely thinking of thoughts, prayers, and pretty much every single thing that I can conceive of, because I mean, I have no idea what it's like to go through what he's going through, and I can't imagine what it's like. So, Mason showed me the ropes and really did a huge amount for. I wouldn't be the person I am today, honestly. So, shout out to him as well. Um, if you've got any time or if you'd like to show support, the GoFundMe is linked into the broadcast chat room, and we would very much appreciate it. So, on behalf of Team Goon Squad and the very big, very close, tight knit family that it is, we'd like to thank you very much for coming and joining us here for the broadcast of the Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series. And we will bring you the action for the final race next week. Thank you very, very much for coming, and we'll see you then. Take care.